Good afternoon. Welcome to the Ohio Commission on Minority Health Demonstration Grant Application Technical Assistance session. We will review a number of slides today regarding the new grants management system. Each slide will be available for your review at your own pace, as this pre-recorded presentation will be available on our Grant Opportunities page of our website at www.mih.ohio.gov. Please note, this means that every slide will not be read in its entirety. It will be up to the applicant to further review each slide and again, listen to the entire presentation and review each slide at your own pace to ensure that you are able to submit a competitive, complete application. With that, here we go. For those that need additional information on the Commission background, you're welcome to pause here to read the slide about the Commission's background. For those who need a further introduction with regard to which populations we serve, you're welcome to review this slide in its entirety. However, briefly, through amended substitute House Bill 171, the Commission is mandated to serve minority groups who are most often disproportionately impacted by diseases and conditions. Those minority groups are defined as African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, and Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Funding availability can be found in the current demonstration request for proposal, also available on our website in the Grant Opportunities page. There's to be only one application submitted per agency. And as with all of our grants, funding is contingent upon the approval of the state budget, as well as the availability of funds. Please also note this is a performance-based grant. For those grantees or those applicants that are awarded a grant, your second year of funding is first and foremost available contingent upon the availability of funds, and then also contingent upon how well you accomplished your goals in year number one. For a list of proposals the Commission will not consider funding, please take a moment to read the present slide. With regard to the submission deadline, all applications must be submitted in the Minority Health Grants Management System, abbreviated MHGM, by the deadline listed in the current RFP. Only applications and supporting documents that were submitted before the RFP due date and time will be reviewed. Those submitted thereafter will not be reviewed. Hand-delivered, faxed, mailed, and emailed applications will not be accepted. Please note to absolutely allot sufficient time to submit the application in the MHGM system. Since this is a new system, we strongly advise that you allow enough time to allow for any question that you may have to be both submitted and responded to. Questions typically receive a response within 1 to 2 business days. Please also note the submission of a technical assistance request regarding the application guidelines and/or the MHGM system during the application period will not change the application due date. For funding eligibility, you must demonstrate as an applicant that you have at least 20% of the project funds requested in addition to those from the Commission. So you must have at least 20% of the total request from other resources other than the Commission. Applicants must be a public or private organization which has a valid and active 501c3 application at the time of the application submission. Please note that if an applicant is a local or regional health district or a city health department, entities of the like, regional health districts, you are exempt from the 501c3 status designation. By virtue of being a health department, you do not have to fall under the 501c3 designation status. Each awarded grant must develop and establish a management board or an advisory board for the administration of the grant, and that should be composed of a proportionate representation of the population you intend to serve. You must also provide services in or in close proximity to the target populations you intend to serve. For a list of entities that are ineligible for funding, please pause at this present screen and review. Critical elements for the Ohio Commission on Minority Health Demonstration Grant. Culturally relevant health promotion and disease prevention constitute the focus for this particular grant program. Primary prevention is the key focus of all of the Commission's funding and will be given higher priority than secondary or tertiary prevention. For further guidance on critical elements of this particular RFP, please do pause the presentation and read the full screen. For further information on critical elements, please pause this particular screen and be assured that if you have additional questions about the critical elements, you may submit them to the Commission at minhealth.ohio.gov. We will review that website again at the end of the presentation. Here we have an additional page of critical elements, and the critical elements are also listed in the RFP that is located on the Grant Opportunities page of our website. For this particular piece of the critical elements, we want to reiterate that this is a performance-based grant and that the second year of funding is non-competitive, but is contingent on the accomplishment of outcomes during your first year, and of course, again, the availability of funds. We should also note that grantees who are not up to performance level by the second quarter of the first year, the Commission will bring you in just to discuss some ways that we can help provide technical assistance to help you reach your intended number of participants and the retention of those particular individuals for program completion, with the hopes, of course, of obtaining your goals and objectives for the year, or reaching your goals and objectives for the year. If your program is funded in the second year of the continuation grant, you must continue your grant without gaps in services by providing program activities at the beginning of the second program year. For those who might need a refresher or a first-time experience with the Minority Health Grants Management System, there is a pre-recorded training session available. That pre-recorded training session is available on our website within the demonstration grant area of our grant opportunities page. And again, you will see our web address available for your convenience. With regard to application guidance, responses to this RFP application should be prepared following the guidance that is in the RFP. This particular webinar is just for an overview to help you feel more comfortable while using the grants management system while implementing your entering your application. The RFP gives you express direction on how to properly respond to your questions in the application system. So it's important to note all dates and deadlines and critical elements that are in the RFP must be complied as you're entering them into the grants management system. And for further assistance with the application, you're welcome to use the applicant user guide at www.mih.ohio.gov, also available in the Grant Opportunities page. All of the information on application guidance can be found in both of those locations. With regard to the Minority Health Grants Management System, there are several sections that constitute the full application: the face sheet, organization information, project abstract, proposal narrative, staff description, method of implementation, project action plan, the line item budget, project documentation, signatures, and the actual clicking the button to submit your grant application. I will now go into the grants management system to give you an idea of what the system looks like and how you'll work within the system. Please allow me a moment to actually exit our PowerPoint and go to the portal. Only after you have registered yourself as a user and registered your particular agency will you be able to get to the portal to enter your username and password. So you must register as a user and register your agency prior to getting to this point. Once you have done that, you are able to enter your username and your password here. Please forgive the delay in time. Oh, hey, we had no delay today. So what I will do is to create a new application to quickly take you through the process. The first process is the face sheet. So you'll want to go to your particular, find your organization because you've already registered. It will pre-populate your address for you. You are applying for a grant from the commission. You are to select the fiscal year 20 that is appropriate for your particular year. The grant type, you are to come down. This is demonstration grant. We'll click on demonstration, and you're to select your project area next. I will do diabetes behavior change. The application number will be pre-populated for you at a later time in the application. You'll want to do your requested amount. So you'll want to make sure you consult the RFP. I will do an amount that is under the RFP amount just to ensure that we can get through the application example. Oops, I forgot. This is an important note. There are no commas that you need to put inside of the dollar amount, nor do you have to put the dollar sign. I'm so used to putting the dollar sign. So for your amount requested, no symbols, no punctuation, just the number. So I entered my grant for $55,000. Then you go on to just answer the questions as they appear. We're going to say I've been in existence 1 to 5 years. My program title is Test Diabetes Program. You'll also note here that there is a character remaining limit. This particular feature will help you understand how many characters you have left to use in this particular section. Not words, but characters. So spaces and punctuation count in that character limit. You'll also notice that there's a session timer in the upper right-hand corner. As long as you continue to type actively in your application, that session will begin repeatedly. If you are to stray away from your computer or get pulled away by answering a call, you'll be prompted by the system to be able to save the information on your page. However, to ensure that each of your pages is actively saved, once you've entered all the information, by clicking Next, that automatically saves your data. If you'll notice, since I was active on the page, which includes moving your cursor, typing, spacing, things of that nature, my time just started over. So we'll go back to our test application. We'll enter a first name, myself, and we'll enter a phone number. We'll then enter a project director. We'll just continue to use myself as the example. You'll, of course, have 3 different people in each of these roles. This is just for time's sake. You will have 3 different people in these roles. You cannot have 3 of the same people. They cannot be spouses and they cannot be family members. So you'll want to make sure you have 3 different people in these roles. This is just for a test. I, of course, at the commission, or Miss Amy Elbor will be the project lead. That will be pre-populated into your application just as it is here. You'll then click Next. You'll now move on to the organization information. What is important to note on this page is the entire page is grayed out, meaning whatever data you entered into the face sheet, whatever data you entered upon registering your particular agency will appear here in these grayed out boxes. If there is an error, the applicant is not able to make that change. You will need to submit your change in writing to MinHealth, MINHEALTH, at mih.ohio.gov. MinHealth at mih.ohio.gov. You'll have to request that help to have that data changed. The next screen is the project abstract. So you will just simply type in what that project abstract is. We'll just put test project abstract here to keep us moving through the application. Once this is all entered to your liking and you've spell checked it and gotten in the most abbreviated version of your abstract, you will then hit next. And as you can see, as we move through the application down the left-hand side, you can see you're moving through each level successfully. This is the proposal narrative. Here you will provide further documentation of who you intend to serve. So this is your demographics section at present. We chose to do diabetes. We are just going to go through and choose several of the populations that we chose to serve. We're going to do male and female, and are going to do 25 to 35, or I'm sorry, 25 to 34 in the young ladies, and we'll do 35 to 44 in the young men. So those are our target populations. You're welcome to do as many or as few as you have the capacity to do for the level of funding that you're requesting and for your experience that you have with the particular population. So for the description of applicant agency, I'm just going to put test description. And you will answer each of these sections fully. You'll be able to see the number of characters you have remaining. You see my time started over again because I've been active on the page. So I will just continue to put in some test language in each of these boxes to ensure that we're able to move through the application in a timely manner for our time together today. You will, of course, make sure you have full responses in these boxes so that you have the best possible application to submit. So I am just putting in some test data here. You will notice that these are the same standard questions you've always responded to, or for those of you who are new to the commission funding, these are standard questions we've asked in previous application iterations. And you just enter your test data here. For elements of sustainability, these are opportunities for you to continue or to document to the Commission how you intend to sustain funding should Commission funding end. So under sustainability element, you click on the drop-down box. Are you going to adopt administrative policies and procedures that would allow you to continue the program? Are you going to seek alternative funding? Are you going to find a community champion and to lead action of other community agencies to help rally around this issue and diabetes and have some programming in the community? You would actually go through this list and determine and let us know which you intend to pursue should commission funding cease. So I'm going to choose alternative funding. I'm going to put in applicant agency. Will seek, let's see, federal grant opportunities around diabetes. You will, of course, fully vet this particular concept and provide your description here. Again, this is just for me to allow you to see this particular area. Once you've made your description, you click Add. Okay, that session warning was to let me know that I am still moving on this page, and that if I had let that warning stay by not moving, we would be able to save the information on this page and come back at a later time. However, I'm going to keep it moving. You'll see our elements of sustainability addressed. I'll now click Next. We're now down to staff description, which will also afford you the opportunity to put in your community advisory board description. So first here, you'll see that there's an opportunity to address how your agency will plan to ensure assigned staff are culturally and linguistically competent. I will just put in some test class language here. You will, of course, fully respond to this answer in as great of detail as possible in 3,000 characters. You see I have 2,981 characters remaining. You will fully answer that question. This is just for test purposes. And so now I will come back and I will add staff. So I will just add myself. Let's just put myself down as the CEO. For age group, let's just go ahead and say I'm 20 to 24. And then for my ethnicity, we will say that African American, I am female, and I am an employee. Staff qualifications, let's just say master's prepared. You will fully respond to this. You may say, I'll say master's prepared in public and minority health. You will provide additional detail in this particular description box. You may discuss their education level, years of experience in the community, delivering services to your target population, some of their lived experiences, perhaps if they are a member of the community who happens to live with the particular disease and condition that you are trying to prevent. So you will enter that information here in staff qualifications. And then you click Save. And here you'll see I have an employee listed. You will continue to do that for each of your employees. Now, even though this button says Add Staff, I'm going to go back. I'm going to add, let's see, Joe Smith as an advisory member. And I'm going to put Advisory Board Chair. And their email, we'll just use my email since it's quick. You'll put their correct email there, put them in the same age group, and they will be, perhaps will be American Indian. He is a gentleman, he's a male. He is a part of the advisory committee. And then you'll put his qualification. Perhaps he is a member of the target population who has 5 years experience, in diabetes prevention, programming, and evaluation, if I can spell. And then I will click Save. So now you see I have two lists here, one for the advisory committee and one for the employee. So you will be able to list your two separate entities here. You'll do that for each of your advisory board members, and then you will click Next. You're now in the method of implementation section. This section is a portion of the meat of your grant between the method of implementation and the project action plan and your line item budget. While all the components of this grant are important and required for submission, this is really the detail of how you are going to implement your program. So the questions such as demonstration and verification that your program is proposed is medically and technically accurate. You will type your response here. I'll just put test response. You will answer it fully in 3,000 characters. You will then progress through each of these text boxes by completely answering each question. And you'll want to use as much detail as space will allow. So you want to make sure that you are succinct and to the point, providing any data that will support your stance on why this is needed for your particular grant application. And then once you have completed this section, you will then hit Next. Now we've moved all the way down into the project action plan. I will click on Create Project Action Plan. The demonstration grant model has required goals and objectives. You must use and you must enter every required goal and every required objective into your project action plan. And I will show you how to do that. Because this particular grant management system is used for multiple applications, there is a little wording that we need you to be mindful of that makes it sound as if you don't have to address all of the required goals and objectives. And it's because, again, this system has to operate and be able to be used by multiple agencies. So we have had to make sure that we expressly cover this section. So at first, we're going to define our project model type. I'm going to use an evidence-based program for diabetes education. Let's go to other because that's for hub. Let's use other. There we go. And we're going to use demonstration for diabetes because we only have one model the commission funds at present, and that is for the hub. Your particular model type will be other for demonstration, which will allow you to select from all of the demonstration grant areas that we choose from. But remember, the target focus for this particular opportunity is cardiovascular disease and diabetes. The type of interest, you're going to come down. You're going to be dealing with adults, so you can do any of these. Actually, we'll just do access to prevention services and health education, so I move you along through the application. But you're able to choose any of these that actually are the focus of your grant. I will choose access to prevention. The start date of your program, of course, has to be at a date in the future. So we'll just choose, for my purposes here, August 1st, and our end date we'll choose next year at the end of the fiscal year. So we'll say June 30. And then we move on to the next section. This is where that wording I mentioned earlier comes into play. You'll see in the tan bar it says choose desired goal for this project model, at least one. However, for the commission's grant submission, you must choose each required goal. You must also choose each required objective. The at least one does not apply to the demonstration grant. You will see in the current application where we expressly tell you you must address, meaning you must include each required goal and objective in your grant submission. So please do note that. Also, where you see this red asterisk, that means that at this particular point, that this is a required area. Everywhere you see a red asterisk in the defined goals and objectives is a required area. So here I've selected both of the required goals. So now I will move on to the next section. Here we have to define the objectives. Also stating just one, but not so. We have to choose every required objective for this particular disease and condition. We'll now choose objectives for the next goal because that was for goal number 1. Here are the objectives for goal number 2. We will choose each one. We will move on to the next section. We'll now define the particular objectives further by putting in our target numbers. So in this particular grant year, we intend to have the current objective be met at the following way. The current objective is to increase the protective behaviors that reduce the risk of developing diabetes. And you want to have, let's just say 100, you want to have, let's just see, I don't know, let's just make this, you want to have 80, let's shoot for the stars, let's say 90 out of your required 100 people. Demonstration grants have to reach 100 people. So you want to have 90 out of 100 people increase their protective factors that reduce the risk of developing diabetes. So then you come down, you choose your level of change, and you're working at the individual level. And you come in here and you now talk about where you're going to, the linkages between your program design and the goals and SMART objectives that your program intends to achieve. So you would then discuss how your program would help address this particular issue. So I will just put in test support for the linkage between program design and SMART objectives. This is just test, but you will specifically discuss how your program design will help achieve this particular SMART objective. And then I hit supplies for the next objective. So I have to go through and do this for each objective for goal number 1 and each objective for goal number 2. To save time, I will do save and finish later because you would not have on our limited time today to be able to go through each of those. But you would continue to put every objective, a number to be met for every objective of goal 1 and every objective of goal 2. If you have to stop and come back later like I just did, you would log back into this system, locate your grant, you would click on review to see how far you got already. Okay, so you see you began to enter data for all these up here that have a number. So you've already got one of your goal and objectives completely filled out. But you'll also notice in the edit that after you've defined each of your objectives for each of your required goals, there are also approaches and activities, like your approach, how do you intend to fulfill that objective? And your activities, are the number you intend to serve. And it's important that your number you intend to serve in your activities matches your target number of your objective. So when you said that you were going to reach or have 90 of 100 people in your program achieve that first prevention measure, then that number would also have to match in activities. You'd have 90 people in the activities that you would have listed to achieve that objective. So it's very important that your numbers coincide. So you'll have to define an approach and an activity for each objective as well. And once you're all complete, the system will allow you to review those goals and objectives just as I did a moment ago. So again, we will save and finish later. Next, you then have your line item budget. You'll notice at the top, the total of the other amount should be at least 20% of the total commission amount. Here you see other funding in the second column from the right. That is where you will put all those funds that come from external resources that are outside of commission funding. So let's say you have, personnel at $1,000 for the first quarter and $500 for the second quarter, $1,000 for the third, and $500 for the fourth. I'm making that number up just for purposes of you to see how to enter that data into those boxes. Then, of course, you will put your description of each of those line items in the narrative box. So that's your budget narrative is this particular column. So we'll put test budget narrative in this box. You will provide the full narrative for each line item in this particular box. And that line item should also, that narrative should also, include the unit cost of supplies. You'll also want to make sure in this other column you put what that contribution is outside of the commission funding. So I'm going to put down that we will have $250 of our budget for this particular line item come from another source. We will put, let's see, agency contribution. And you will, of course, list wherever that additional funding actually came from. Once you have completed one line item, you'll see the total for that line item in the column to the right, the far right. That's the total. And again, you want at least 20% of your total to be from the other column or external to commission funds. As you scroll down after you've entered all of your line items and narrative, including unit costs for all of your line items, and then your 20% above and beyond commission requests in this other column, when you get down to the bottom, you'll be able to see how much you've requested from the commission where it says OCMH total, and then what your total contribution is outside of commission funding. At present, with that first line item, we are at 8.33% of our 20% that's needed to fulfill that requirement. So we're well on our way to getting that 20%. So you would continue to enter your budget data from this point. I don't have, I need to make sure this is 20%. So let's go ahead and do, let's see, that's 3,000, 600. Let me see if I could do this to make that over 20%. That's 20% exactly. So we'll see what the next screen looks like. You'll enter your full budget. You can see I entered an amount that would get me to 20%, so I could show you what the next screen is. You will enter your full budget here, of course. And hitting next saves this particular page. We are now at project documentation. There are 3 items that that you must submit that we have preloaded for you. These required documents. They are the Civil Rights Act form, the Rehabilitation Act form, and the W-9. You would click download for each of these particular documents. You would then print each of those documents out. You will then sign those documents and then manually upload that document into the system. and then you would save that document with your name and your grant number that you would have seen that has been pre-populated for you. So once you downloaded that document and save it, you would come to the document type. So for instance, if you were looking at that Civil Rights Act form, you would click on Civil Rights Act. You would put test applicant, or whatever your grant number is, your grant number 2000001, civil rights form, or whatever you want to describe your document as, and you would enter that data. You'd also then, as a demonstration grantee, put in who your REAP evaluator is, because as a demonstration grantee, you must select a REAP evaluator. You would be able to find a list of approved REAP evaluators on our homepage by scrolling down to the current grantees section. You'll see a list of approved REAP evaluators. And there you have that. So I'll go back to my system here, and then we'll put in whoever you selected as your REAP evaluator. Then you will choose your file from your desktop, and then you would, of course, enter that, click upload document to save that document, and you would see it on the page. So for each of those 3 required documents, if you scroll over to the right side of your screen, you'll see again, any item that has a red asterisk by it would be required for submission. So you're going to upload and save, as we just demonstrated, a copy of your 501c3. You're going to upload and save the administrative compliance form, which can also be found on our website by going to Grantee Forms, scrolling all the way down the page to General Documents, and there you have the administrative compliance form. I'll go back to my system. You'll want to have a board resolution which is signed from your board saying that you are allowed to apply for the grant. That civil rights form, the evaluation plan narrative. Please consult the evaluation section of your RFP to have the full means on how you submit a successful evaluation plan. You'll also want to have the grant signatures included as in a manual copy of the signature page. You'll have an opportunity to have the Rehabilitation Act submitted, and resumes, the W-9 form, and the other forms that you would want to have included that aren't necessarily required. Letters of support. Those are detailed letters from a community partner that state their specific role in supporting your program. They're not canned letters. They're saying exactly how they're going to help you. Job descriptions. You want to make sure you upload job descriptions of those staff members who are going to fulfill a role in your particular hour sample diabetes program. But again, make sure you have all of the required minimum documents uploaded into your application through the upload process that I just demonstrated. And you'll want to make sure that you do that to have a complete application. I mentioned a moment ago the signed signature page. Once you're complete with uploading your project documentation, you'll see here are the 3 people that you entered for your executive director, project director, and fiscal officer. They are not to be the same person as I have here. That was, again, just to quickly go through our application. Each of those individuals would come to you and click on that they agree that by this checking the box below is the equivalent of a digital signature. By checking the box, you indicate that you agree to the submission of this RFP. So you can read that fully as you go through the system, but they need to have that box checked. In addition, they need to download this particular form, coming up for you momentarily. This is just a sample. The signed documentation page would be here. They would download, sign that, and then upload it into the system in the project documentation page that we showed here. So you would go down this list and find the particular item you are looking for, and then you would go, that would be grant signature. You would choose that and then upload the document as we shared earlier. The final section would be submit. And I won't be able to fully click on this or have this completed for you, not click on, but complete this section, because there are portions of the project action plan and the project documentation that are not complete. So it will not allow you to submit the application that's not complete. What will wind up happening is that you're able to see a list of items that are not submitted. So that is the actual project application in its entirety for the demonstration grant. Again, my test responses are just for the quickness of being able to go through the application for you, but I'll go back through this portion from where we are. So we went through the application process. Here are some system quick tips. Please make sure you gather all relevant or pertinent information you need to submit the application. You want to make sure that your application session does not expire for lack of activity. As long as you keep on moving, you have 30 minutes per page, not for the whole application, to complete a page. So as long as your cursor is moving or you're hitting keys, scrolling through information on a page, your time will start over in 5-minute intervals. And then if you do not finish in that 30 minutes, you will receive a prompt from the screen that you all could see flash in and out earlier as I was completing my application. You'll be able to follow that prompt to ensure your information is saved. Otherwise, the best way to save information is to complete a page and click the next button. Also remember, as I just stated, there's a countdown clock for your convenience at the top right of the screen. You have a screen prompt that will help you know how to save. And you'll be able to know that you're logged back in by the indicators on the screen as well. We discussed clicking the next button as the best means by which to not just advance your application, but to save the data that you've entered on a page. All fields with red asterisks are required fields. The character counts for each boxes, again, are just that, character counts and not word counts. And this is just a smattering, not all of the boxes, but for your project abstract, you have 5,000 characters. Your proposal narrative, you have 3,000 characters per question, the same for method of implementation. And the budget narrative, plenty of room to respond to those particular areas. And what some people have seen to happen that is helpful is they may respond to the questions on a Word document to really kind of finesse the word, and then simply cut and paste that into the actual application. Or you can simply just type directly into the application as we did today. With regard to required grant reporting and participation requirements, you'll be uploading your signed, once awarded, I should say, you will upload your signed acknowledgement of terms. You will also upload a document where you respond to any written request for your program and fiscal special conditions. If you have to adjust your budget will be reopened to allow you to adjust your budget. If you have any program special conditions that aren't just you uploading a Word document in response to a question, you will also have the project application open back up for you to respond to any program special conditions. But you'll receive all of that information should you become funded. You will submit all of your program and fiscal quarterly reports to include the program evaluation report actually in the MHDM system. There will be no more paper reporting. All of your grant reports will be pre-populated with the information that you entered from your application. You will simply go through and report on what has happened in that quarter. You'll report on spending for the present quarter. You'll report on numbers and be done. Quick and easy. You'll want to make sure your program evaluator report does have to be written and uploaded into the system. The program evaluator report is not in the MHDM system, but you do have to work with your program evaluator throughout the quarter to ensure you have a very good picture of your quarter's work in your evaluator's response to those evaluation questions for the evaluator. You'll also have to, as an awardee, participate in our Minority Health Month kickoff, which takes place in March of every year in anticipation of April as Minority Health Month. And again, you'll want to make sure that your program director and your REAP evaluator meet throughout the quarter so that you stay in concert with one another to make any program adjustments should data say so. And if program adjustments are necessary, you would get permission or pre-approval to do so through your commission appointed staff member. Each grant will also be appointed a REAP panel member. This member is not a part of your paid grant team. This particular evaluator will be one that reports back to the commission on your project status overall. You'll also have to submit year-end and biennial year-end information into the MHDM system. And what's also important is that once you are awarded, you must have a fully executed AOT to include the original signatures that we just showed you how to do, but you have to respond to those special conditions for program and fiscal as well within 60 days of your being notified or getting your notice of award. If you do not have all that information completed, signed, and uploaded in the system in 60 days or less, you will be at risk of not receiving your grant award, and we don't want to see that. Please remember that all applications are due in the system by the due date and time listed in your current RFP, which is listed on our grant website. And if you want to find out more about us, you're welcome to stop by the office if you happen to be in the Rife Center. Here's our information. But please know grant staff is only allowed to respond to questions about the grants management system or the open round of funding through the MinHealth email address. And that is minhealth@mih.ohio.gov. For general questions or information about our organization, again, here's our website email address. Look us up on Facebook by our call name there. And of course, we are also available on LinkedIn. So this really concludes our demonstration grant, Minority Health Grants Management System technical assistance session. That's a mouthful. I assure you the system will be a lot easier to say and use. So we wish you well. Please submit all of your questions about the system and the RFP itself to that MinHealth email address. Please do not call or directly email staff. Again, your question will be routed to that MinHealth email address. Please allow 1 to 2 business days for your responses to be provided to you and then added to the frequently asked questions that are also available on our website. So I hope this process through the webinar has helped. Again, you can listen or read at your leisure at any time while you're filling out the application. And there's always the applicant user guide you are able to use that gives very specific details, far more specific than my review today. So I hope this day finds you well, and we look forward to receiving your application. Thank you very much.